Now that you know what gear you need and how to set up your bait station, let's go more in depth on Plastisol, Pigments, Flake, and Scent. Hey guys, I'm Jason. My wife Amanda and I started Epic Bait Molds to bring you the highest quality molds and best customer service on the planet. We designed this course so you can go from beginner to expert making your own baits. Let's get started on today's topic, which is Plastisol, Pigment, Flake, and Scent, and we have Adam back from SDG Custom LureCraft. What's up, man?
Good to be here once again.
Let's start off with Plastisol and kind of the basics. So there's a ton of different brands and types of Plastisol. This right here is 242 for bait plastics, and you guys are probably thinking like, what do I start with? What's the best kind?
Yeah, I get that question all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's so many molds out there, there's so many Plastisols out there as well, and it can feel overwhelming. We use 242 because it's a medium blend. It's right there in the middle. If you want a harder blend, and there's times when that's appropriate for larger swim baits and things like that, or if you just want a little bit more durability in your craws so they last a little bit longer, you can go up in hardness. For bait plastics, that means you're gonna go up in numbers. So 242, a harder blend would be 262, up into the 300s, which would be for like saltwater, which is really, really stiff. Likewise, it goes the other direction. So if you're thinking like drop shot baits, and you really want that floppy, soft drop shot bait, then you're actually gonna move down. You can go to 142 or even 112. So really depends on what you're looking at and what you want to make in your baits. But for me, and just about everything that I make, and even you guys in a large part, 242, that medium blend is perfect. But before we go any further, let's actually talk about what Plastisol is.
So you'll notice in these jugs here, this one on this side has a plasticizer and a resin. So it's two different components, and when they're mixed together, it looks like this one. This has been sitting for a while, that's why you see the two layers. And you need to mix it up so it's all suspended together. And then when you heat that up, there's actually a chemical reaction that kind of combines the two. As it cools, it gels and then solidifies into the baits that we all know and love.
Yep. If you don't mix it well enough, your baits will be gooey and nasty, or they won't set up. So when you go from this to this, it's always best to put a little extra time in and make sure it's blended up really, really well.
And when we're saying blending, for us, we have this little stirring stick that goes into a drill and it spins, and it's a homemade one, but you can buy these on Bait Plastics or on Amazon, and it goes right in the cap, and you're stirring up all of the solids and the liquids together to make sure they're properly emulsified. So when you're stirring up the plastic, it is possible to whip air down into there, especially if you're lower, like you don't have a lot in there when you're mixing it. And also, you'll see people do this. I even do that in some of the other videos.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. It's because it's the fastest way for me to shake it, but then you have to degas it in this degassing chamber, and that's to get all the bubbles out. And also, there'll be bubbles and moisture in it if it sits for like a year, or however long, like this has been sitting for months on end. So you just want to vacuum chamber it to make sure. But when, like from Bait Plastics, I know for sure that when you get that, they've already degassed it and everything in their humongous industrial vacuum chambers. So the next thing after Plastisol is your liquid pigments. These are like the easiest thing to add. You're just doing a couple drops, and usually you want to do those hand in hand with a little bit of flake, which we'll talk about in a minute. But for pigments, I mean, if you look behind us, there's every color of the rainbow. It's kind of overwhelming. So let's kind of narrow it down. Like say you're just getting into this and you want to pick like 5 or 6 pigments. What kind of colors would you be looking for?
So normally you're going to want to try to make stuff that either looks natural or that gets attention and is brighter. So fish are predatory, right? They're gonna go after things that is normally in their area. So any kind of greens or browns and things like that are gonna be key. You could also, if you're fishing like dirty water, you need darker colors like a black or a blue, or you can go the opposite end of the spectrum and go to like a really bright chartreuse. So some of my favorites are green pumpkin, which we have here, watermelon, which is a green that is a little bit lighter. It's a little bit more translucent. The light passes through it a little bit better. So that would be better for like clear water. Then we've got, of course, black is used all over the place. There's just a whole bunch, and we're actually gonna do a future video where we'll show you how to make some of those basic colors.
And one thing that's interesting too about these is that it's not like you can just dump the whole bottle in or put 2 drops in, it's the same color. With these, the advantage is you can put 5 drops in and it's one opacity or color, and the more you add, the less light will come through that, and it kind of changes the overall look of the bait.
Yeah, and I will mention one other thing. So these, just like the resin will settle with the plasticizer, oftentimes the pigments in these, what makes them the color that they are, will also settle. So you gotta make sure that you shake them up really, really good. You can hear that. I actually put a little 1/4 inch, 1/4 bolt in mine, or steel bear bowling, or ball bearings, or whatever works for you to make sure that that gets shaken up so you get all of the pigment that's in there.
So after you have picked out, like, let's say 4 or 5 colors, then there's your flake. And your flake, again, as you see, a million colors, different shapes, different sizes. There's even ones that change color based on how the light's hitting them. So a good starting point would be what? Like your blacks, your silver.
Yeah, black is a must. Got to have black. Silver is going to make it look like scales. So especially for swim baits, and you want to get that reflectivity, you want to use silver for a lot of that. But black is a must, and then you can use all kinds of different colors to draw out other colors in their atmosphere, right, or in their environment. So if there's bait fish with a little bit more blue or a little bit more purple, you can add that. All kinds of stuff to match the hatch.
And so there's also a lot of sizes. So we have sizes 0.008, 0.015, 0.032, 0.062, and an 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. There's so many. So what do you think the main two, if someone had to pick 2 sizes,
Sure, yeah.
what would that be?
So if I was going to only go with a couple, as you're getting started, make it simple, then a good medium flake, which is going to be either 0.035 or 0.040. Both of those are medium size. That's great to start with, and you can make a ton of baits with just that size flake. If you wanted to go an extra step, then I would step it down and actually go to 0.015. Something to watch out for though, there's a lot of flakes available like Walmart and Hobby Lobby, things like that. Those flakes, by and large, are not heat sensitive. And remember, when we're working with hot Plastisol, this stuff is over 300 degrees. So if you put some of that cheaper flake, right, from Walmart or from Hobby Lobby, it's gonna lose its color quite often, and it's gonna curl, it's not gonna look right. So in order to get the best looking bait, you really need to go to a bait making supply store, right? That would be Barlow's Tackle, that would be Bait Plastics, that would be LureWorks, where these pigments came from. And as a matter of fact, LureWorks offers a combo set with, I believe it's 12 different colors, 1 ounce bottles. This is a 4, it would be 1 ounce bottle, as well as a combo pack of all different flakes in those sizes that we talked about. So you can kind of try those out, mix and match, and see what you like.
Yeah, that would be awesome, especially if you're just getting into it and you don't know. And 1 ounce still goes a really long way.
It does, lasts a long, long time.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about like these liquid pigments and how these kind of, the flakes kind of play into that, what about some of the more advanced things like your highlights, your powders, your pearls, all that stuff?
Sure. So while these are liquid, you can actually buy a powdered based pigment. So instead of it being liquid, it's just powder that you would scoop out with the same teaspoons that we had talked about before. If you can use these as a color base themselves. They will stand alone, but there are other options, as you mentioned, things like highlight. So we have a violet highlight here, where if you made, say, a green pumpkin that you want to mimic a bluegill or something like that, and the bluegill in your area have a little bit of purple on them, you can add some purple highlight or violet highlight, and what that does is when the light hits it, you get just a little bit of a shimmer, a little sheen of purple as opposed to purple.
And so you wouldn't want to use a highlight just by itself necessarily.
You can, but it's not normal.
Because it's going to be mainly translucent with a little bit of like purple on the edges.
You're playing with light with highlight, and it's a really, really cool effect. Another great option is 8-bit baits. So we've got a lot of stuff here from 8-bit baits. They've got powders that will act on their own, as well as flake. So their flake is some of my favorite stuff to use. It's called Siren Scales. Super reflective, really looks awesome, especially in swim baits.
And unlike this kind of flake, this is has a certain shape to it. This is all different shapes and sizes and pieces, so it adds a lot more. Nothing in nature is consistent,
right?
So it adds a lot of variation, like a natural fish's scales and reflectivity.
Absolutely, a lot of different particle sizes in one container, whereas I would have to add both medium and large to get that depth. That's what we're talking about, adding depth to a bait.
And so the last thing is scent. A lot of people add scent to their bags, anise or craw or coffee, garlic. The garlic is so strong. Don't even open it anywhere near you. It's like crazy. But,
fill your shop.
Yeah, fill your shop. But so a lot of times people will take, and when they're putting the bags or baits into bags, they'll put like 5 drops in there and kind of mush it around, put the baits in there. It helps you slide them into place and to cover up like human scent and some of the plastic scent. But that's really on the outside. Maybe some of it absorbs, but not a lot of it. So what about, have you heard of people like pouring it into their plastic as they're working with it?
I have. Not as popular probably, only because it does a couple of things. It's going to add moisture to your bait, which causes bubbles and might cause your bait to be weaker than it needs to be or than you want it to be. And honestly, I haven't seen that it lasts. You really can't tell once the bait is made unless you add just a ton of it in there, but that means that much more moisture.
You're compromising the quality of the actual lure to get that scent in there.
Most do just add it to the bag.
Right, exactly. So even though you can use scent, neither of us really use scent a lot. We actually will put like a couple drops of worm oil into the bag and then work them in there. Although, I do like the coffee smell a lot.
Yeah, there are some benefits.
So if you guys have been wondering, these are actually some baits that Adam's already made prior to this video. And let's talk about these quick so you guys have some examples of what we just kind of went over. So let's start with this Glory Craw here. Like, what do we have going on in there?
Yeah, so this guy is made with a new pigment by Barlow's. It's called Sweet Honey, and it utilizes really small flakes, so 015 black flake, and then I went all the way to the other side of the spectrum to 1/8" flake that I actually had to get on Amazon, but it oddly enough holds up. And it does quite well.
That's the black flake we're seeing, is the big 1/8" flake.
So as you hold up the bait, you can see the light go through it, but that giant black flake will block some of the light and it gives it a very molten, natural look.
And if you guys do want to see him actually mixing this up, go to his channel on YouTube, and it's a pretty awesome video watching him mix this thing up.
Sweet bait.
Okay, so this craw has obviously got huge flake in it, we just talked about. Let's talk about this small guy here. This has tiny flake, it looks like.
Yeah, that's actually a bait that's made with nothing but 015, so you can go this route as well. It's worth noting, right, this is a much larger bait than this one. The Glory Craw is 3.4 inches. This is the 2.3-inch sleigh bait, so keep that in mind as well. Oftentimes, your flake size can be determined, although it's not a hard and fast rule, can be determined by the size of the bait. So putting giant flake in a tiny little bait like this might not look like you want it to. But using 015 for both the top and the bottom on this one looks really nice.
And one other thing with this too is if you're shooting big flake into a small bait, like a stonefly that has features, you could be blocking like the legs and stuff, so you're not gonna actually get a good injection. So having that small flake actually goes down to those legs and you get that shimmering effect everywhere in the bait, not just in the body.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Now we've kind of gone over all of the pigments, flakes, plastisol, how all that interacts. Let's actually get making some baits, and we're gonna do that in the next video.
Cool.
Thank you.